To talk about the big geopolitical trends that are likely to play out through 2023, I'm joined at the World Economic Forum here in Davos by one of the world's leading political scientists, one of the top experts on global political risks. Bremmer, president of the Eurasia Group. Welcome to the India Today studio here in Davos. It's fantastic to have you with us. Thank you. I want to start by getting you to talk to our viewers. As far as the whole world is concerned, the big global trend that you think is number one in your mind when you look at global risks this year?
The single thing that worries me the most in terms of global volatility is that we have a small number of individual actors, players, who have an extraordinary amount of power. They've surrounded themselves with yes men who just tell them what they want to hear. And there are no checks and balances on the decisions that they take internally. So this is not like an American president, Democrat, Republican. They do something you don't like, they get constrained by their actions. No, what am I talking about? I'm talking about some dictators like Vladimir Putin, like the Iranian supreme leader, and even like Xi Jinping in his third term, who has consolidated so much power. But I'm also talking about some of these tech bros like Mark Zuckerberg and like Elon Musk, who also, are doing far more that have dramatic implications on democracies around the world, and their institutions just do what they want. Nobody stops them. We've never had a world with so many powerful rogue actors that really stand outside of the consensus policy making.
The biggest concern from an Indian perspective is China and what's going down in China at this moment. There are so many reports about the number of COVID cases, the number of deaths as a consequence of COVID. There's also talk about the Chinese economy bouncing back and whether she's being moderated by domestic trouble. What's your reading of what's going down in China?
Well, there's no question. They've gone from zero COVID to everyone gets COVID in weeks, and they weren't ready for it. They didn't have therapeutics for people to take. They no longer were monitoring the numbers of cases that they were getting or the new variants that are showing up. And so for the rest of the world, China, for the second time as the epicenter of the global pandemic, just as they were in 2020 before they told anyone that they had human-to-human transmission, of course, that creates a lot of anxiety about the rest of the world and has led many other countries to say, okay, we're not going to let you travel unless you're testing and all the rest. But more broadly speaking, we do have to recognize that this was a decision taken by one individual leader, right? And he can do that in ways that are positive for the Chinese economy and positive for Chinese technology, but he could just as easily do that in ways that are negative. So it's the very fact that after his third term, suddenly everyone in the Chinese leadership system is loyal to Xi, accounts to Xi. He's not getting contrary. I mean, 10 years ago, China was still a dictatorship, but it was a dictatorship by consensus, where you had hardliners and you had more pragmatic technocrats on every issue, and they would be internally squabbling that would eventually come to a strategic long-term consensus. And we've been talking about how China, does policy for the long term, is, really considering what's going to matter on the global stage as it increases in power. You can't say that to the same degree when Xi Jinping has become a second Mao. That's just much harder to do.